Hey everyone, me Kevin here. This morning, House Democrats attempted to pass a $2,000 stimulus check amendment by unanimous consent. Unanimous consent is required anytime there is a pro forma meeting of Congress. The Democrats' action failed. The Republicans attempted to pass a unanimous consent inquiry into foreign affairs spending in the current Corona bus package, COVID relief, and budget omnibus package. That also failed. Senator Roy Blunt, who is a top Republican senator, he is the chairman of the Republican Policy Committee in the Senate, somebody who specifically deals with bills when they come down the pike and actions in the Senate. He responded to Donald Trump's $2,000 stimulus check demand in a 7-minute interview with reporters. Here's what we learned. First, regarding foreign aid, he said, quote, "The negotiated foreign aid provisions would not benefit by opening that part of the bill up. And frankly, if you start opening part of the bill up, it's hard to defend not opening the whole bill up. It took us a long time to get to where we are. I think reopening that bill would be a mistake." I have to agree that there is a big danger in going back and trying to reopen this bill and have any expectation of getting it done within the next week. It won't happen. If we reopen the bill, I would expect we're going to be negotiating this well into January. See, remember when the CARES Act was passed? It was kind of weird. The CARES Act passed March 27th, and for weeks later, it seemed like every day some article was coming out about, can you believe what they buried on page 2,392? It was crazy. I remember all these articles coming up like, oh, this loophole's in there, this loophole's in there. And even Nancy Pelosi decried that afterwards, like, oh, I can't believe this got snuck in there. It's like, sometimes they don't know everything that's in there, and that's not good. But what is good is we got action. We got $1,200 stimulus checks, we got PPP money, we got unemployment pay, we got EIDL grants, and we arguably rescued the economy with the CARES Act. Now, sure, there are things that should be fixed, absolutely. And in fact, this is where you get Republicans and Democrats saying, hey, that shouldn't have been in there. Let's amend that in future bills. That's very commonly how Congress works. They put together a hodgepodge, they pass it, and then, crap, we shouldn't have done that. Then they try to revise it later. But the limbo that we're in right now is a very, very hot potato, and it's very dangerous because here's what's happening. As the bill is out, America is starting to pick it apart and start resenting this bill. And the more that happens, the more public sentiment says, ooh, yeah, no, this bill is a hot potato, the more Congress tries to appease their constituents, the people who vote for them, and decides potentially not to re-vote on this bill in the future. If this bill disappears on January 3rd and they try to reintroduce it on January 4th and say, let's just try again, let's try to pass this again, public support for it might be gone, which means senators and representatives might not vote for it anymore, which is bad news. This is why in real estate, quick note, when you negotiate a deal, you do it in writing. Because once the deal's inked, no, this is what we agreed to in the contract. It's not like anybody's trying to trick anybody. It's like, you had the contract, obviously you should have more than 6 hours to read it, right? But people change their minds all the time. Could you imagine if we didn't have contracts in the business world? We'd be like headless chickens running around where our moods change with the wind, which is kind of what Congress is with paperwork. It's terrible. But anyway, this isn't to say that there aren't bad parts in this bill. Don't get me wrong. There are big problems though, right? On Saturday, 12 million people lose their unemployment benefits. On December 29th, over 2 million federal workers in the government will go without pay. And on January 4th, over 8 million families, up to 19 million people could get evicted. So when Roy Blunt was asked, if we can't go into the details of the bill, what's the way out? How do we solve this problem? Roy Blunt responded to this and said, quote, "The best way out of this is for the president to sign the bill." This is true. Donald Trump does have the power to sign the bill, and hey, we might hate parts of it, but at least it'd be done. And we can go to round 2 and fix some of the problems in the next round. But, the problem with Donald Trump signing the bill now would admit huge issues solely from an ego point of view that I do not see Donald Trump overcoming. Ask yourself this. Ask yourself if Donald Trump would be okay with the following 3 things. First, he'd be signing a bill that he openly called a disgrace. So he'd be signing a disgrace into law. Those are his words. Second, he would take a substantial portion of the blame as to why people got left hanging on unemployment without benefits and why there was a delay in stimulus checks, PPP funding, vaccine distribution money, school aid and transportation aid, and more. This week was critical to start getting the printing presses rolling on stimulus checks. This week is now lost. And it would make Donald Trump look weak because it means he put up a fight and walked away with nothing. Now, while I'm hopeful that Donald Trump just signs and we move on to negotiating the next stimulus bill and solving whatever issues might be left over in this one, I put this at a 10% chance of happening without some sort of concession to Donald Trump that Donald Trump could cheer. See, if you, in negotiations, push somebody into a corner and they have no way out, they're better off just standing and taking the fight and taking all the crap that's going to come with it. AKA, Trump gets pushed into a corner with these three problems. There's no way he's just going to go, okay. All right, I'll just sign. You got to give him an option. Now, that option in theory could be something like, what if we do $1,000 stimulus checks? And Congress gets on board and Trump goes, crap, well, I could do nothing. That's going to look really bad. I could sign it. That's going to look really bad. Look, I got us more money because it gives an option out. Roy Blunt was then asked, what's the second best way out? Roy Blunt doesn't necessarily like my idea. He said, let's hope the best way works, aka let's hope Donald Trump signs. The second way is a lot more challenging. And this is true, because even in the example I gave, you give an alternative. You go, let's go $1,000 stimulus checks, just as an example. Well, what happens then? You open up the negotiation again. Republicans come in with demands, Trump comes in with demand, Democrats come in with demands. It might not be as easy as, here's this $2,000 stimulus check amendment. It should be. It totally should be. But unfortunately, the way Congress is functioning thus far, we have no indications that anything's going to be easy. Now, when asked if the Senate, on this note, when asked if the Senate would get the votes to pass a $2,000 stimulus check amendment, which yesterday we talked about this. We said, look, combined, we've got 47 House independents and Democrats, which means we only need 13 votes from Republicans to get these $2,000 stimulus checks done. I can guarantee you're going to get people like Romney on board with this. And I know there are 13 people like Romney that are like, let's do this. But Roy Blunt, get this, Roy Blunt said there's no way the Senate will get to 60 votes on the $2,000 stimulus check. This is a very bold statement. It basically says that right now, we're putting everything on hold potentially until after the Georgia 5th runoff election. That means we run over our eviction cliff, our unemployment cliff, our federal budget aid cliff. Everything gets run over. Republican Roy Blunt then went on to say that basically Republicans, their aides, and people on the Hill, Capitol Hill, have, quote, no idea what's on President Trump's mind. They're frustrated and confused. Some say, hey, art of the deal. Well, right now, people feel the art of frustration. Now, really, Republicans are probably just waiting for some kind of clarity or leadership. And unfortunately, that's really lacking right now because you've got Kevin McCarthy like, yeah, okay, let's go into the foreign affairs spending. That's right. America hates that part. Let's go into that. Let's show America that we're gonna research this to the whatever end. Well, cool. So you got that one person, but they're also rejecting the $2,000 checks at the same time, Kevin McCarthy in the House. So that's not good. So you don't really have leadership here. You just have almost a populist movement. Then you got the other leader, who's the one who's supposed to be leading the charge here in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, who hasn't spoken publicly since Trump's veto threat. Steve Mnuchin hasn't spoken publicly. Trump hasn't given us other guidance other than, a fundraising email and a statement that, well, mostly statements about the election. We haven't heard much about this actual bill since he made his Twitter statement. Nancy Pelosi complained that this is, quote, outrageous, but what do we expect Nancy Pelosi to say? We really got to pay attention to Republicans. Here's another letter from Nancy Pelosi. Today on Christmas Eve, happy Christmas Eve, by the way, House Republicans cruelly deprived American people out of $2,000 that the president agreed to support. If the president is serious about the $2,000 direct payments, he must call on House Republicans to end their obstruction. She's not wrong. Republicans need leadership. They do not have leadership right now. They are headless chickens, clueless. This is why Roy Blunt is like, the best thing right now is just to sign it because we don't have a unity right now. We don't have a unified approach to fight with Democrats over this. So instead, they're starting to look like the do-nothing party here, especially with Mitch McConnell hiding. That's not good. You don't win a game by turtling. Kevin McCarthy complained that Democrats blocked funding into the foreign funding research this morning. That's the only thing we heard from Kevin McCarthy this morning. And now we've got the following on the table. House votes Monday to pass $2,000 stimulus checks. That's going to force Republicans' hands. Even if it passes, it's going to die in the Senate. It's almost better that the House does not vote on it to get a deal first and then pass it. But they probably won't do it that way. Number two, they're going to override or try to override the NDAA. Again, something that's going to force Republicans' hands because they don't have a unified approach. So Democrats are understandably trying to push to figure out, well, where do you guys stand? Like, you got to let us know. And number three, to pass a continuing resolution, which early this morning I covered Steny Hoyer's press conference, and he mentioned that Pelosi and Mnuchin, you could watch that still, by the way, were talking, and because of that, they weren't sure how long a continuing resolution would be that they'll introduce on Monday, but they do plan to introduce a continuing resolution. This basically just funds the government for another period of time, potentially until or beyond Inauguration Day. But we don't have the answers on that. So what's really absolutely clear here is that we have yet again a complete and utter disgraceful failure of governance in this country. And for that, I'm extremely sorry. But you can still get life insurance in the link down below in as little as 5 minutes, and you can get 4 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100 with their stock trading platform. You will get 4 free stocks worth up to $1,600 and as little as $21, which means you get at least a 21% return on your $100 deposit. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.